My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on the show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from sunny Florida, which if you're watching the video, it definitely does look sunny where Ken's at. We've got real estate entrepreneur Ken Naim, and Ken has really focused on thinking outside of the box, not just commercial, not just residential real estate investing. So Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Hey Ken, can you tell us a little bit about what you're focusing on primarily these days when it comes to real estate investing? Like what asset class or classes, and more or less give us an idea of what your current portfolio looks like.
I focus on value add real estate investing, and my latest acquisitions have been in the office space, particularly suburban office, which is an asset class that's very out of favor right now. And because of that, we're able to pick them up at bargain prices and get amazing returns. So it's very hard to believe. And people are just so afraid of office nowadays that it's just, when they say when there's blood in the streets, you want to be buying. With office space, there's blood in the streets.
there's a bloodbath. There was at least. So Ken, this is great. So this is very contrarian, as you've just said. Mm-hmm. So many people are running scared of office, especially memories of pandemic lockdowns and everybody working from home and massive amounts of office space going empty. And especially in suburban office space, it might have even been a bit worse. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But what are you finding? Why is that not the case? Who are you transforming these things into something different? No. Or what are you doing?
When people during the pandemic, the office space that suffered the most was downtown office. Your 30-story, 40-story, hundreds of thousands of square feet, if not millions of square feet of office space. Nobody wanted to commute for an hour and a half with public transportation and then take a shared elevator up for 5 minutes, going up to the 30th floor, with 1,000 of their closest friends, during the pandemic. And those spaces suffered tremendously. And those,
I'm thinking of, in my neck of the woods, the city of Calgary, Alberta. I mean, the amount of offices.
New York, Dallas, Los Angeles, Chicago, take your pick. They pretty much were all the same. And a lot of those cities were locked down that people couldn't even go to those office buildings, even if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And those places were just vacated, and people started working from home. And then they realized that they like the work-life balance of working from home, but a lot of people cannot literally work from home. They don't have an extra bedroom. They don't have the setup. They don't have the proper internet or the proper equipment. So they need an office. So they figured out the right balance is a suburban office, something 10, 15 minutes from their home, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 square foot building, either for one company or shared amongst many companies. And this way they can get there relatively quickly. They can get home quickly. They save 2 hours a day of travel. Okay. And it's 2 or 3 stories. So they're sharing a small elevator, with a few people. They can take the stairs if they want to. And a lot of these big companies, instead of having this one huge headquarter, are now splitting them up into multiple suburban offices where people can come in. Okay. And suburban office during the pandemic didn't suffer as much. If anything, it even got increased occupancy in some cases. Obviously depended upon the city and the state and what their COVID restrictions were or weren't at the time. Like here in Florida, we were much more open. So we didn't suffer as much in the suburban office market. But nowadays, suburban office has much, much higher occupancy than downtown office, but they're painted with the same paintbrush. Lenders are afraid of both of them. Sellers are selling them at ridiculously high cap rates. When a few years ago, you couldn't buy these buildings at a 7 or 8 cap, some of them today are selling for 12, 15
Wow.
caps, and it's just like they have to twist your arm to buy it. And it's like, I'll take them all at 15 caps. Yeah.
Okay, so let me kind of recap. Speaking of caps, Sir Ken. So what I heard you to say is suburban offices hold a lot of appeal now, especially after the pandemic.
Correct.
Either big companies want to split off for having one big mega office to having a whole bunch of smaller, more suburban offices, so it's more convenient for their staff that want to be closer to home. So a little bit more of that work-life balance, less commute. And also a lot of people want their own little personal office, like if they're self-employed or whatnot, they don't want to work from home or they don't have the space. So you're almost setting up, I don't know if they'd be co-work spaces, but a whole bunch of little mini offices within.
It ranges from the co-working space where it's one person with 80 square feet to a small company with 1,000 square feet to a medium-sized company with 8, 10 employees sharing 2, 3, 4,000 square feet up to some, medium-sized companies with 20,000 square feet. So it all varies. Now, most of these companies have reduced their requirements from years ago. Even the companies that had 400,000 square feet a few years ago might only have 200, 250 nowadays. So you do have to take the vacancy into account as well. Like suburban office, most of the time it's not going to be 100% occupied, 85, 90%, 95%.
What does your portfolio look like right now, Ken? Like how many of these different buildings do you personally have involved?
Well, we do other things as well. We're recently looking to buy more and more office. We just closed on 92,000 square feet of office in Cincinnati.
Nice.
In August. We have 57,000 square feet of office under contract right now in Dayton, Ohio. And we own 37,000 square feet in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And that's what we own in office. We also own retail. We also own some industrial. And we also do some land entitlement projects a couple of years ago.
Very cool. So Ken, keeping on the idea of the suburban office idea, you mentioned that you're looking for value add. How are you typically looking to add value, or how are these kind of properties typically being undermanaged or what have you? Where are you creating the value there?
A lot of owners today, they feel the pressure of office, and they're very hesitant to invest additional capital into their office buildings. And today, if you want to get occupancy in your office building, you have to offer something that the other buildings don't have. Okay. You need some kind of extra amenities, dedicate more space, maybe put a shared training room. Okay. Where people don't need a training room 30 days out of the month. Maybe they only need it 1 day out of the month. So 2 days out of the month. So you dedicate some space that you're not charging rent for, but now you can increase your occupancy because 5, 6, 7 tenants can share that one training room over the course of the month. Nice. And you just factor that into your rent rate. So you increase your common space, but you're also increasing your occupancy to pay for that common space. Okay. If it's more of a high-end Class A building, maybe you have a small putting green on the outside. You have picnic tables so people can enjoy, at least in Florida, they can enjoy the winter outside. You need something to attract people to differentiate your property from everybody else. And this is true about any asset class. Yeah. But particularly in the office space, you just have to make it look nice. And people want a good place to work, especially when you're talking Class A, Class B. I don't do Class C office, and I wouldn't recommend Class C office right now for whole other reasons. But for Class A and Class B office, you really have to be nice, show well, be clean, spend the money. And a lot of owners don't want to spend the money today because they're afraid they're throwing good money after bad. But in a way, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't maintain your property, you're going to lose tenants. You're not going to get new tenants. And then your building goes down to 30, 40% occupancy. And that's kind of the death spot in these office buildings.
Is that what you're kind of looking for when you're looking to buy a place, or are you looking for one that's relatively in decent shape?
We look for moderate value adds. We did heavy value adds for a while, and we realized that the returns are not there for the heavy value add. It's a little paradoxical, but it doesn't make sense. But when you have to pay cash for a building or get a bridge loan, hard money loan for it, your cost of capital goes way up. And then you have to come out of pocket for extensive repairs and extensive items. Your cash on cash return just keeps dropping the more money you put out of pocket. So we found the sweet spot was around 70%. So we look for 60 to 80% occupancy, or at least 60 to 80% economic occupancy. Even if it's like 90, 100% full, they're just under rented. They're paying 10, 20, 30% below market.
Got it.
So some combination of those two, where we can either increase rents or increase occupancy, or hopefully both, or maybe there's some creative way to increase rent. Maybe there are too many storage rooms that we can convert into leasable space, or maybe we can rent some parking, or maybe there's a basement that we can rent out as storage for $4, $5 a foot. We're always looking for some creative way to utilize the space to get a few more dollars.
So Ken, you're in Southern Florida. You've got properties all over the place. What do you guys do for management?
Nowadays, we typically self-manage and get either a maintenance company, or preferably a maintenance person that's in charge of the property. And then we also make connections with a local broker for showings and different items. So either that broker is paid a salary, or they're on commission, and we just have a listing agreement with them. But the maintenance person is our go-to for everything. They meet vendors, contractors, inspections. So they'll take care of everything. And if they need to hire somebody else, they'll usually either have the connections to do it, or if we have to resort to Google, they'll meet them, evaluate them. And this way we have one trustworthy person that knows the buildings inside and out.
Yeah, that's smart. So Ken, where do you see you and your company going over the next year and a half?
We would like to close another 5 or 6 commercial projects in the next year and a half. But we're targeting 1 or 2 a quarter. It's been hard to find deals that meet our criteria. We're looking for what most other investors consider high cash on cash returns. And when you have properties that you can increase the net operating income, or NOI, by like 30% or more, that will pretty much guarantee that you will double your investment in that property. Because if you put down 25, 30%, and the building sells for about 30% more, it should, if the cap rate is stable, it should double. Now, if you can buy it at a high cap rate and sell it for a point or 2 or 3 lower, that's just pure bonus from our standpoint. Because we don't.
What is kind of your exit strategy with these properties? How long do you want to hold on to them for?
My typical hold period is 3 years.
Pretty short.
We take the first year to the first 6 months. We really get to know the property and make sure that it's really is what we thought it was, and it doesn't have hidden problems or usually it does have hidden problems that you even with inspections and everything, you can't find them. And that's why we don't spend a lot of money in the first 6 months on all the things that we want to do, just in case all of a sudden there's some huge expense that we didn't know about, so we can reallocate funds to there from the nice to haves to the absolute musts, Like over that the HVAC system is not working properly, that has to be fixed. It doesn't matter what it costs or anything, because an office building without a good HVAC system is an empty building. So,
Pretty quick, yeah.
yes.
So Ken, you painted a very rosy picture about, investing in suburban office properties. Makes a lot of sense. It is counterintuitive, paradoxical, I believe you said, but when you explain it like that, makes a ton of sense. Now, it can't be all sunshine and roses.
No.
What are some of the downsides to this asset class or this strategy that you've come across?
Non-residential properties, particularly office, vacancies take a while to lease up. It's not like you have a multifamily apartment, you listed, 3 days later, you have 10 people showing up that want to rent it. With office space, it could take 3 months, 6 months, even a year, depending on how many square feet you're listing. And the negotiations can take a while. So even they want to rent it, you could spend a month going back and forth on the LOI. And then it could take another month for the lawyers to hash it out. Okay. And then you might have to pay $5, $10, $20 a foot for TI to get it how they want it, potentially. Okay.
TI, sorry?
Tenant improvement.
Tenant improvements. All right. Perfect. Yeah.
So they might want this wall moved, or they might want the conference room expanded or changed or added, or they don't want this flooring, or they want this color paint, and and they might want to move in ready. Or they might want to do the work themselves. They just want to get reimbursed for it. It's another form of financing in a way.
Yeah.
But that I love paying out TI because it pays for itself like 6, 7, 10 times over in the long term. Because if you can get an extra 10, 20% higher in rent, that when you factor that into the NOI at let's say even an 8 cap, so every dollar you spend will return 12. And I would love to do that all day long, turn 1 to 12.
Yeah.
Okay. Because once you go to sell, the TI is not counted anymore. It's just, okay, the rent is $25 a foot, $30 a foot, triple net, divide that by an 8 cap, and that's your price.
Yeah.
So I rather spend the money and get a higher rent than get a lower rent and keep that money in my pocket.
So, Ken, do you typically work with partners on these kind of projects, or do you guys self-finance everything you do? What does that look like for your company?
Up until a couple of years ago, I pretty much self-financed everything. And then about 3 years ago, I started taking on some investors and some partners into them. So the 2 buildings that we bought in Cincinnati, that was just 5 partners that we self-funded. Our land entitlement projects, we have a small group of investors for each of them, not the same investors. We have another small group for the retail center that we bought back in December. So it just depends on the project and how much capital we need for it and how much we have and how much room there is for our partners to make money out of it as well. We won't take a project unless our investors can get good returns too, and low risk.
Well, you know what? It's fascinating what you're up to, Ken. I've done quite a few of these interviews. You're the first guy I've talked to that I can remember talking about suburban office space. So thank you very much for enlightening me and everybody else. And if people would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just look up Ken Naim. That's Naim on LinkedIn, and I'll be there.
Awesome, Ken. Well, all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you've subscribed. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on the show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.